Namaskar and welcome back to Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives. Elon Musk has taken over Twitter and already sacked a bunch of hotshot executives. Closer home, there is a meltdown following a news portal's stall claims of exposing a racket which was eventually found to be nothing but fabrication. Please stay with us to know what this is all about. But first up, what made news? India has never considered war as a first option. It is always the last resort, but the country's armed forces have the strength to give a befitting reply to anyone who casts an evil eye. Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared this emphatically while interacting with soldiers in Kargil. Keeping up his tradition of spending Diwali with Jawans, PM Modi landed early on Monday and spent a lively time with the surprised soldiers. Indian origin Rishi Sunak checked in at 10 Downing Street, becoming the first non-white PM of the UK. His election brought cheer to Indians across continents. In their first telephonic conversation, PM Modi and PM Sunak discussed about strengthening the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries and an early conclusion of the pending free trade agreement. But some political parties tried to use the occasion to create a needless controversy about a minority PM in India. Despite a media blitzkrieg, there appeared to be few takers for Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's new proposal of having images of Lakshmi and Ganesh on currency notes. He claimed this would boost the economy. BJP leaders reacted strongly, saying this was a poor attempt of damage control following recent anti-Hindu utterances of many AAP leaders. Mallikarjun Kharge, the first non-Gandhi Congress chief in more than 2 decades, took charge at the party headquarters this week. Welcoming Mr. Kharge, outgoing chief Sonia Gandhi said she was feeling relieved. Home Ministry has ended the FCRA license of the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation and Rajiv Gandhi Charitable Trust. This was done following violation of the foreign funding law. News reports said the decision was taken following an inter-ministerial investigation into the matter. Viewers, all of this week you must have followed, like we also did, the entire chain of events related to the Wire story on the Meta so-called expose. Of course, the timeline is pretty long and you will find it on your TV screens just now. But just to make it really short, what happened is something like this. The Wire news portal carried a couple of stories claiming an expose that Facebook's cross-check, which is an internal arrangement of theirs, had given exclusive rights to the IT head of the Bharatiya Janata Party that he could take down whatever content, whatever posts did not go through them or their approval. Now that is a really serious charge to be leveled on any microblogging or social media platform. But Facebook vehemently denied the whole story. The BJP denied too. The Wire stuck to its position, trying to brazen it out and claim that they had documentary evidence for the story. Now here's the thing. The documentary evidence that was produced in a subsequent story, which was actually the screenshot of a purported email, was supposed to confirm the story that such an arrangement indeed had been made. But the Facebook executive Andy Stone said this email, which was attributed to him, was a fake one. The Wire claimed they had been technically verified and there was no reason it could be fake. In fact, it carried another 2 stories, not only trying to establish the veracity of its claim, but to lay counter allegations on the Facebook team, the Meta company. However, to put it short, it was finally found that the claims of technical verification were completely unfounded. In fact, the technical experts who were referred to by the Wire backed out and said they had never verified any such document. Finally, the stories have been taken down. the wire has admitted that it was not what it was made out to be. But this raises more than a dozen questions about the entire episode. Let's try to get the answers to a few of them. To understand this complex issue in an easy and better manner, I'd like to switch to our guests for this evening. I have here with me Subimal Bhattacharjee, well-known cybersecurity expert. You have heard him on Media Scan on earlier occasions. He will help us understand what exactly might have happened. Subimal Bhattacharjee, welcome back. Also here with me, veteran journalist, press advisor to the former late Prime Minister Vajpayee ji, and currently a member of the Prasar Bharati board, Ashok Tandon. So happy to have you on Media Scan, sir. Namaskar, welcome back. My first question also comes to you, Mr. Ashok Tandon. Sir, you have seen the entire chain of events. Now, since this is Media Scan, just to put it very briefly, I was scanning the views and comments of people across media platforms, including television, and I could clearly see two sets of views there. The one saying that, okay, the story may not have been what it was made out to be, but the wire has admitted it, they have apologized, and it does happen, why not let it rest? But there is another set of people whose clear view is that this was not a mistake. It was intentionally done to run down both the social media company as well as a particular political party, and it is a classic case of fabrication and forgery. This cannot be a mistake. Mr. Ashok Tandon, in your experience and understanding, sir, do you think it was a mistake or was it malified intent?
No, on the face of it, it appears it's a conspiracy. But the question now being asked in different quarters is that who hatched the conspiracy? And the wire still maintains, although they have apologized, they have regretted, they have put the blame on their investigating team, all sorts of things they have admitted, but they still believe that they will continue to remain in touch with their so-called source and try to do more stories like that. So that means the wire is not fully in a way admitting that it was a mistake. Had it been a mistake, they would not have been saying that they still stand by their so-called source and they will continue to remain in touch with that source and do more story. So I think the main issue before the media fraternity is that why such kind of conspiracies are being hatched, even if it is hatched not by the wire but by other the stakeholders in it. But the question is the conspiracies are being hatched, and
hold on, sir. Hold on. Are you trying to indicate that this may be malified but not on the part of the wire? Perhaps they were taken, taken on a ride by some other sources and they just got carried away. Is that what you are saying?
No.
Okay.
No. The question is now that everybody else has washed its hands off it. In fact, the official statement is that it is a fabricated, it is untrue, there is no evidence. Now, having said all these things, the only culprit now seems to be the wire, because they have not practically washed their hands off. They say that they were taken for a ride, their own investigating team did something wrong, they have also removed the person who was doing it, but it's the typical way of media trying to wriggle out of it. But the question is that if it is a conspiracy, if the wire says they have not hatched it, they have been taken for a ride, they have been misled, then who has done it? Because the main company, they say that, well, they have denied everything, they have used all the adjectives against this story. I think what we really need to do today is an investigation. The wire says they are still conducting an investigation into where things went wrong, how it happened. No, their investigation has no meaning. Once you admit it was...
presuming that this was a conspiracy, as you are outlining repeatedly...
What I am trying to say is that this calls for an investigation at a very high level. not simply leaving it to the investigation of the wire. Wire has no locus standi to investigate because they have been proved wrong and they are now in the dock. So
Right.
how to proceed
So
further?
allow me, Mr.
Yeah.
Tandon, to take this question to Subimal Bhattacharjee also. Subimal Bhattacharjee, as Mr. Tandon was just saying, the wire has clearly been proved wrong and they have admitted as much, if not in so many words. Now the question arises, if the matter has to be investigated, it cannot certainly be investigated by somebody who is proved to be in the wrong. So who do you think is right or the right authority to take this investigation forward? And also whether you really think an investigation is required at this stage or we should let the matter rest?
Smitaji, I absolutely agree with Mr. Tandon that the investigation has to be done and it has to be outside of Wire. See, a platform like Wire, which is an online platform with a lot of followers, carrying out and sort of news like this, news also in my mind, but something like this, trying to bring in an individual, Mr. Malviya here, to say that he has a blanket check, to play around the cross-check facility of Meta, and to bring to discredit not only him but a platform like Meta, which has some very stringent, procedures in place about how the whole process happens. I think this is a very, very serious issue, and hence, since Wired themselves now have apologized, there has been a few rounds of media stories that they have also done, trying to sort of, I don't say wriggle out, but trying to possibly in their way ascertain the truth. But if they are saying that somebody within their own team misled them, misguided them, what stops them from filing a criminal case against that individual? Because let's forget the reputation part, but other than the reputation part, there is a serious criminal element. This, under our IT laws, under the way cyber space works, this is a criminal offense as I see it. That
Right.
Some emails have been fabricated, forged, and created, and then emails have been sent.
In
So
fact, Mr.
clearly-
Bhattacharjee, if I may just interrupt for a second, the Wire has tried to leave this part of the story a little vague or foggy, perhaps deliberately. Sometimes they say that their reporter, their journalist may have been misled by a source in the company. At other times, they try to obliquely put the blame on they are really not trying to pin it on who or what it is. What do you say?
I think it is possibly beyond their realm or understanding, or possibly ethically, they shouldn't get into this job of investigation. As Mr. Tandon has pointed out, as has been reported in the media, that two of the experts whom they have employed it was claimed, have both denied that they did any kind of a technical investigation into what went. So I think they should remain very clear out of all this investigation business. They should themselves put a criminal case against that individual who has forged and fabricated, and let Delhi police or whichever jurisdiction in which a case is filed take up this investigation. We have good cyber investigation capabilities within the
Point
police
taken,
forces
sir.
in the country.
Point taken. I'll bring in Mr. Tandon here for a second. Mr. Ashok Tandon, you just heard Subimal tell us that, if they have been misled or they were taken for a ride, what stops the Wire from taking the initiative of filing a complaint? However, my question to you is a little different, sir. You may have remembered, as we all do, when the new IT rules were being framed for the digital media and other platforms, you will remember that the whole campaign against the new IT rules framed by the government was spearheaded by people among whom the Wire's management, their editors, were at the forefront. Seeing what has happened now, do you see a relation between the two issues? What would you say at this stage, sir, now that it has been proved what's been going on?
So before I come to your point, I would like to add something.
Yes.
That the crux of the whole story boils down to one thing, that it was an attempt to tarnish the image of the Modi government.
Yes.
because that seems to be the target of the wire consistently ever since it was launched.
Why do you
Now
say so?
they are trying to save their skin by arguing that Meta might be trusted in tarnishing the image of India, and through this kind of a plan of Prime Minister Modi. Now, the Meta has very clearly said that if at all they were interested in tarnishing the image of Modi or India, why would they choose a platform which has only 7,000 kind of subscription? So,
Right.
therefore, the theory is demolished. And why should they do it in case of India? Then another allegation is perhaps somebody whom they claim to be a source was an ex-employee of Meta. He may be interested in doing this kind of a damage to India's image or Prime Minister Modi's image. No, an ex-employee would have grudge against its own company, but he can't have grudge against a country or a Prime Minister. So ultimately it boils down to one thing, that the wire has that kind of a dubious reputation. If you look at the stories, the kind of stories they have been doing, they have very much a vested interest in lowering the image of Indian democracy or the freedom of press by trying to put the blame on the government of India or the Prime Minister Modi or the BJP, and the way they have implicated the BJP spokesperson of the IT cell, Mr. Malviya, the idea seems to be through this kind of a story, attributing it to sources, unknown sources. They have not yet disclosed the source also. Through Amit Malviya, they want to show that the Modi government is curbing the freedom of the press, and this is a proof. Now, if the proof has been demolished completely, and they are admitting it as a mistake, but the question remains, what were their intentions in doing?
Right.
The
And
intent
Mr.
behind this
Tandon,
kind of story
you
needs
started
to be
with
investigated.
you started your comments with one interesting sentence, that they have been known to do this for a long time. I will come back to that aspect of this whole matter, but before that I have a query for Mr. Bhattacharjee. Subhimal Bhattacharjee, you know that Amit Malviya has declared he is going to pursue civil as well as criminal defamation cases against the platform, and he is going to sue them for damages. Being a cyber law expert and seeing the chain of events that happened over this related to this story, you think the wire stands any chance legally?
Well, I think, it is very clear that there is a civil as well as criminal element to the whole issue. And definitely, it will be pursued, the investigations have to happen, and the whole process of law goes in. Because it's quite a serious allegation. Mr. Malviya has every right to go to the court. It's something, you are trying to basically question the very basis under which, how we define freedom in this country and how the platforms operate. The platforms also try and maintain to give the fundamental strengths of freedom of speech and expression, but they do not, go into any kind of behind the scenes story to give a blanket ban to Mr. Malviya and all. So many people in the scheme of things in which so many stories come out, and as you referred to during the IT guidelines, intermediary guidelines, rules that were notified last year and implemented from May last year, many people who try to form an opinion that possibly, something like this is true. So he has a point, and definitely the legal route and the investigative route will bring out a lot of things. But what's very important also, Smitaji, to understand here is that the same premise on which the platform went during the intermediary guidelines rules were being framed, where it was being trying to be projected that India is suddenly becoming very draconian as far as online scenario is concerned. Just yesterday, the 27th of October, the European Parliament notified this Digital Security Act, very, very comprehensive act.
Okay.
And it is on how do you look at all these platforms, how they perform and all. And let me tell you, everyone should congratulate this government that what they saw, what they foresaw and brought in this provision about bringing responsibility for this platform, this is also being followed by the European Parliament now. So,
very interesting.
The scenario is such that we have to be able to tell the story, truth, and everything around the whole effort truthfully to our people, through the platforms or whatever media. We cannot become sensationalizing something like that, which affects every day. Man, every day today people are getting digitally connected. We have to give them confidence. We cannot create a kind of a fear.
And even if we want to do, even if we want to do a sensational story, it must be based on strong pillars of facts. But what you have raised is really interesting, Subemal Bhattacharya, regarding the European, the Europe also coming out with similar laws, because certainly the digital space is something where we have to be very sure that the consumers of digital news are not being cheated or taken for a ride. But Mr. Ashok Tandon, you were talking about the fact that many of the stories that have been put out by The Wire in the past have been actually done with a clear political intent of running down the government for whatever reasons. I am reminded, sir, of the Rafale story, which they ran a series of reports on it with crop documents, etc. That did not stand legal scrutiny. Then came the Pegasus controversy, again did not stand legal scrutiny. And many readers may not remember, but there are many more other stories, sir. For example, publishing a story about there being no newspapers coming out from the Kashmir Valley after 370, which was proved to be wrong. Then there was a story about Muslims starving at the Punjab-Himachal border that was found to be totally factually incorrect. So certainly there is a pattern we see here. Why do you think, Mr. Tandon, this is the case?
First of all, I would like to say, when I use the word conspiracy, the conspiracy is much wider. And before I come to that, see, Amit Malviya filing a, challenging it or defamation, both civil and criminal, well, Amit Malviya may get vindicated, may stand vindicated in the court of law, and I will not be surprised if the Wire apologizes to Amit Malviya as well. But that's not the question. The question is the kind of damage it has done. It is not confined only to Mr. Amit Malviya personally, or say for that matter as a spokesperson of the BJP. The question is, the conspiracy is to defame India's freedom of expression, speech and expression. And therefore, this particular case has been, sort of fabricated to prove. Now, once the case has been demolished, now it needs to be investigated how and why the Wire has this conspiracy. If the intent is political, to malign this particular government, then again, it calls for an investigation at a level which should be at the level of the Government of India agency. Suppose this kind of story, tomorrow they do a story which undermines India's security and integrity, then just apologizing, admitting a mistake at the technical level of the team or blaming the source or somebody else, it will not help. So I think time has come, and Wire has now since been put itself in the dock. They need to be investigated further. Once the crime has been committed.
At what level, Mr. Tandon, would you want this investigation to take place?
And I think the Government of India agencies under the IT Act need to file a case against the Wire and investigate it under the law. As you said, they were in the forefront of opposing the provisions of the IT Act which were being enacted, because there is a very strong lobby which is interested in defying these IT laws and trying to do it in the name of freedom of speech and expression. So I think under the IT Act, a case needs to be registered against the Wire, and all their admission needs to be put as evidence, and also if necessary. Yeah, there must be some action. They can't go scot-free just because they have apologized.
I understand your concern, sir, but I am afraid we are almost running out of time on the show. I want to give just a very quick query to Mr. Subemal Bhattacharya. Mr. Bhattacharya, as Mr. Tandon said, Amit Malviya has gone to announce, he has gone ahead and announced that he will file a case because it concerns his reputation. But at the same time, this is about the whole country. My worry is that what about, innocuous, innocent consumers of digital news who read the news from the platforms thinking this is the real truth, the gospel truth. What happens to, gullible consumers like them? What is the safeguard we have for them, sir?
Smitaji, that was the point I was just making earlier, that that people consume news today more while on the move digitally and all. They try to believe more, the device that they held close. Now, when people are fed with fake news or motivated news, I think, that's the worst thing that somebody can do. With the same intermediary guidelines rules, the rules for digital media were also announced last year. I think, those need to be strictly conformed to. They have to be really, really implemented well, and investigation has to happen at a very meticulous level so that, we stop all those kind of things. We cannot allow our people to be, taken for a ride
again and
this
again.
Kind of, content. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for putting it so well in perspective, Mr. Bhattacharjee. But I'm afraid that brings me to the end of our conversation for this evening. We shall come back to both of you. Mr. Ashok Tandon, so kind of you to join Media Scan this evening, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Subimal Bhattacharjee, always ready to join our show whenever we have requested him. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Smitaji.
Viewers, two things become very clear from the arguments put forth by our special guests. First, just Mr. Amit Malviya suing the platform is not enough. He has done it for his own defamation. However, it is the reputation of the country which is at stake with stories like these which are clearly based on fabrication. Hence, there must be a thorough investigation into it. At the same time, the IT laws, which were so badly opposed at one time by these same set of people, need to be implemented if we have to go to the bottom of the matter. With that, it's a wrap up on Media Scan for this evening. Namaskar.
Come on boys, let's go practice.
अरे रुक यार